Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast. Now, we just released the Strixhaven Commander decks, which I've been talking about plenty, and many of you have been enjoying as well. But what does the future of Commander decks hold? What are our current philosophies around it, and what can you expect? Well, let me tell you all about it today. We released our first ever Commander decks 10 years ago in 2011. I can't believe it's been that long. And these were the building blocks of what would become the Commander decks today. I look back at these decks with a lot of nostalgia. You know, legends like Zedru, Carador, Damia, Kalia of the Vast, and Animar led the way to the kind of cards we make now. Cards like these really set the tone for where we are today. I mean, I remember seeing Zedru for the first time and my mind just expanding at what it could do. Wait a second, your commander is a card that gives your opponents your cards, and then of course, how could you use that? And you figure out, maybe I want to use auras or cards that my opponents don't really want to combo with it. It was a lot of fun and definitely a deck building hook. And those 5 original commander decks really did pave the way for all the commander decks that came afterwards. They were such smash hits that we started putting commander in the schedule for every year. And I look back at each commander release with its own set of memories, its cards that hit, its cards that missed, and the cards that were probably a little bit too powerful. Now let's flash forward all the way to today. Commander has gone from a format that most players had never heard of to perhaps the most popular way to play Magic in the world. I mean, that is huge. One of the things it's done that I think is really powerful is become a common language for everybody to play Magic under. It used to be that if I met up with my friends and I said, let's play Magic, I might have a standard deck and you might have a modern deck and maybe someone else would have a legacy deck and someone would have a 60 card casual deck and we wouldn't know how to all play together. But with Commander, that's all unified. Almost everybody, it seems, has at least one Commander deck and we can all bring them out and play together. It's so powerful. So with all of Commander's growth and popularity, last year we asked ourselves the question, why are we still doing just one deck release a year? I mean, it's grown so much since 2011, it makes sense that we should right size our Commander offerings for this entire new player base that loves Commander. So with 2020, we saw the year of Commander. We did more Commander decks, and we did a set Commander Legends, as well as some other Commander stuff too. All the way back in the beginning, with those 2011 decks, our philosophy was very much Commander is not for new players. Keep new players as far away from Commander as you possibly can. I mean, and on paper, it makes a ton of sense. There's 4 players, there's all kinds of old mechanics, anything goes, you're never quite sure what's going to show up. It gets complicated. And anyone who's ever tried teaching with a game of Commander can probably attest there's a lot going on. And we kept this philosophy for a long time, and year in and year out, we decided that Commander products were not going to be a place for new players. But then, something interesting started happening. We started hearing reports of players teaching other players through Commander. And these reports started off small and then grew and grew and grew and grew until we were hearing about a ton of players who were coming into the game through this format. Now, I believe there are 2 main reasons why this is. The first is that while Commander is very complicated and there are a lot of mechanics, and yes, even phasing does make an appearance, it's also social, laid back, and relaxed. So it's not cutthroat and competitive. Takebacks are not a problem. And if you don't know what something does, people will explain it to you. Whenever there's a new player at a table, I feel like everybody at that table is working together to make sure that player has a good time. The second one is that people just want to do what their friends are doing, which totally makes sense. If me and my friends are all playing Commander and you want to start playing Magic, I'm not going to tell you, hey, go buy some kind of intro pack and come back in 4 months when you're ready. I'm going to say, hey, go buy a Commander Precon, come in and play with us. You will have a blast. And as Commander has gotten more and more popular, it means that more and more people are saying that to their friends. So working against that is just working against inertia. So rather than try and work against and fight that, we decided to lean into it. And Commander Preconstructed decks are the perfect way for a new Commander player to get into the format. And by releasing them with most sets, it means that if you're a new player who wants a deck, you'll be able to find one on the shelf and it will be fresh and brand new just for you. Something needed to make room for these new Commander decks. So we decided to change our 2 Planeswalker decks with every set into 2 Commander decks. They were both going to be used for teaching, but the big difference is that Planeswalker decks don't go anywhere. You might play with them a few times and they might be pretty fun, but there isn't a community you join from them. You're not gonna go play them in standard F&M really. Where with a Commander deck, you get to join a Commander group and play right away, and your deck is probably gonna be okay in that game. it leads you right into a community of players. So for the foreseeable future, you can expect to see commander decks with most standard releases. They have all that teaching upside and being great for someone entering the game, while also being way more attractive than a Planeswalker deck to someone who is already playing Magic, with new cards and just an awesome new deck you can go and play. By being attached to our standard releases, it's also a great way to broaden the world. For example, with Strixhaven, I thought it was really cool that the commander decks let us see more of that world and also expand on the mechanical themes. We got to see things like green-blue tokens and red-white artifacts really blown out where they weren't as big of a piece of the main set. It also helps us make sure that big themes from the main set can get a legend to support them without that legend having to go in that main set. For example, Kaladesh didn't have room for a blue, green, red energy commander. But if there were commander decks, it could have gone in there and it wouldn't have had to worry about the problems it might have caused in standard. I also want to say that while right now we're doing a lot of these standard world-tied commander decks, that's not to say that we won't ever do some of the old-style commander decks that are more generic and from anywhere and everywhere in the multiverse in the future. I mean, I loved those, so I'd love to see them happen again at some point. All right, so now that I've said all of that, let me walk you through the commander decks that are tied to our set releases for the rest of the year. Now, so far this year, we've had Kaldheim and Strixhaven commander decks. Modern Horizons 2 will not have commander decks, but coming up shortly thereafter is Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, which has 4 commander decks, and these are very much in the vein of the Strixhaven commander decks. There are 17 brand new cards per deck, and they're all built to play against each other. This is kind of a special thing doing 2 big commander releases in a year, but it was Dungeons & Dragons, and we felt it was a perfect tie-in. After all, Dungeons & Dragons players coming into Magic will probably find Commander the format most interesting to them. It really mimics that group play feel of Dungeons & Dragons. So we're super excited to have 4 decks coming out with this set. And then, coming later this year, with both Innistrad Midnight Hunt and Innistrad Crimson Vow, we have 2 commander decks with each of them. And these are very much in the vein of the Strixhaven and the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms commander decks in pretty much every way. For example, the Zendikar Rising decks had 3 brand new cards in them. The Kaldheim commander decks had 8 brand new cards in them. This time around, these decks have 15 brand new cards in each of them. So why 15 cards? Why not 8 like Kaldheim or even all the way up to 17 like Strixhaven? Well, I unfortunately can't quite get into it today, but there is a reason, and I'll be able to tell you a little bit closer to the Innistrad sets releasing. Stay tuned. And although the decks are being released 2 at a time as each set comes out, and they play great individually, I'll also say that once both sets are out and all 4 decks are available, you can pick them all up and have a great little Innistrad bash of playing all 4 decks against each other. That's it for this year. And while I can't get into 2022 quite yet, I can say you can expect to see this kind of cadence continue, with a mix of both 2-deck releases and more than 2-deck releases. Now, I do want to say before going that we know that with extra cards comes extra diligence. I made a video recently about Arcane Signet and how we don't want to do more cards like that are auto-includes in every single commander deck. And so as we're making all these commander new cards, our goal is to not make cards like that. I can't guarantee that will never happen, but as we're designing them, we are certainly not aiming to make that occur. Phew! That was a ton for one video, but I really hope you now have a better idea of what we're doing with commander decks and where they're going in the future. I would love to know what you all think, so please let me know in the comments down below. I'll talk with you again on Monday, and in the meantime, may you just have a lot of fun playing Commander. You got this.
Gavin's
no.
to rat.
Oh no!
2 damage to him.
Brutal.
Alright, now I'm gonna flip cards until I get an instant or sorcery with mana value less than Prismari commands. Let's see what we get. That one's not a legal one. Oh wow, this is actually amazing. This is exactly what I
Oh
wanted
my
to do.
God.